All right. And so without further ado, Marika, do you want to?
Yes, can I share my screen?
Yes, you can share.
Okay, let me share my screen. All right, and I'll share sound. Okay, so mine I think was called trials trial and tribulations of using Google Slides with my students. So I use Google Slides with my students with a high intermediate ESL class with the Queen's Library online, only online. So I wanted them to include just one slide about themselves, like a welcome to our class. And the slide would have to include a few things. It would have to include, well, I'll show you the first slide. Let me just see, welcome. Yes. So welcome to our Monday, Wednesday Queen's Library English class. And then they had to have their first name, last name, I am from, name of your country, I am. So we also reviewed am and have, and am, am with adjectives. So I am adjective of your country, I am name of your country, I have, so a noun, a person, animal, place, or thing in your life. I have another noun, person, or place in your life. Then I had I am a personality adjective. So they had to go to this link. Let me open the link. And then they would choose a personality adjective about themselves. And they were great about that. I didn't really give them any help. And so they were great about that. But before they could do the Google Slides, I didn't know how much they knew or didn't know. So I made quite a few videos. So let me just see if I can find them. I made quite a few videos, too many actually, but so where's my, let's see. Well, I made videos for computer, how to use it on a computer, how to rate in Google Slides. I think you can see this, welcome to our spring. So that was 14 minutes, way too long. I told them, you just skip, just advance. And I made a second one or something. Yeah, Google Slides part 2. I also made a, so I think I have a link to, well, let me just go back to, I'll just go to, so I also had screenshots. I also had a Google Doc with the instructions, so here was it was a Google Doc with instructions, screenshots if they preferred, which I sent to our WhatsApp group. So multiple ways, either screenshots, I thought maybe screenshots would help, or a video would help for how to use it on a computer. Then I made a video on my phone, how to use Google Slides using your smartphone. That was a challenge for me. I had to learn a lot, especially the part about, because I asked them to copy, I asked them to add a slide, see, I had it here. So they had to, I demonstrated here, but they had to add their flag. So that was a little more challenging on a smartphone. So that was the first thing I did, the Google Slides in the very beginning of welcome to our class. So if I just show you the slideshow, it was very short, but it was very cute because it kind of bonded everyone. So Maria had this tiny little flag, yes, and then she, yes. So they all had their, so that was in the beginning of the class. So I did give them a lot of video and screenshots to learn how to do it because they were at different levels. Some people knew how to use Google Slides and other students didn't know how to use Google Slides at all. One of my Chinese students who was retired, she was so funny. She ended up learning how to use Google Slides. And she said, I watched your 28 minutes of how to use the Google Slides and I learned how to do it. So that was the first Google Slides. And towards the end of the semester, I wanted them to share an app or a website that they loved using to improve their English, because I thought everyone could share. So again, I also made a video just to kind of refresh, made a video of what to do, how to add, I forget how to add, what you needed to add for the app, for your app your favorite app website. So I made another video. But let me show you the WhatsApp, our favorite apps. So my error actually in terms of this, because I thought that would be great for everyone to share a favorite app, website, or YouTube channel. I think my error was to do this kind of last minute, the last week. I should have done this like 2 or 3 weeks before, and it would have been a lot greater, a lot nicer. But anyway, so here is the slideshow for the favorite app or website or YouTube channel. So I just like showed it with, like Voice of America. And of course, so many of them had Duolingo. So that was, yeah. Okay, but that's it. So I think that's what and if anyone has questions or anyone have a question or?
I have a question. So the majority of your students, you think they were making this slide on their phones, or did they have access?
No, I think the majority actually were on doing it on the computer, and some of them had done it sort of on their smartphone, and they were kind of frustrated, even though I gave them information on how to do it on a smartphone, that they either borrowed, a family member's computer or laptop. But anyway, yeah, but I learned a lot just doing it on my phone. And yeah, I did share my video on how to do it on a smartphone with our WhatsApp group, and some people watched it, I think.
Which is fantastic. And I love both that you really got into those instructional videos, and then, pushing people into doing this. And I think it's a struggle on the phone, but I feel like we also just don't want to not do something at all because people don't have access. So I'm impressed by this work. Thank you, Marika. Vicky has a question. Vicky.
Yes, and this will, of course, show my ignorance about Google Slides. So I have a lot to learn from all of you. But Marika, do they each do their own and then they send them to you?
Oh,
or you
I'm
do them
sorry.
in a
That
Google
is
Drive,
totally,
and then you put it
no, that's totally my fault that I did not explain that. No, so I created a group Google Slides, and then they were to add their Google slide. I showed them in the video how to so that was another issue, because sometimes so with a computer, right, I had a lot of slides that I copied with name, my favorite, what they needed to do for the favorite app one, and also for the welcome one, which was here, welcome, so with all that information, and they just had to, use that template. But I discovered that actually on a smartphone, it's harder with a template. So I just said, just take a picture of what you need to do, and then you can just do it, on a blank slide. I found that on a blank slide, it was easier on your smartphone.
And you gave them a link to the set of slides.
Yes, of course. Yes, I gave them a link. Thank you.
With
Thank you, Nell. Yes.
With edit capability.
Yes. That was also a challenge in the beginning, because luckily I had made a copy, because some students either deleted my first slide with the instructions, and that's normal. They didn't totally understand. And so then, luckily I had a copy. And so I just would add it or whatever later on and say, no, please don't use that slide or whatever. Yeah.
I think that's a great point, right? So whenever we're sharing a space in Google, that's one of the challenges, and to be prepared for that by having a copy or keeping an eye on the history and whatever, so that you aren't shocked when that happens, or it doesn't derail everything. And I know I've done something like this where I actually assign them a slide, because sometimes that can be chaotic too. But it's, these folks were doing it as homework, right? So they were
doing this as homework. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so they just knew to come to the next slide that was open. When I've done it where we're all doing it at exactly the same time, then I found actually naming each slide or giving people a number and then telling them which slide number is theirs, because it's the other chaos that can happen is that we end up writing on top of each other. So excellent. Any other questions for Marika? That fantastic stuff.
Okay, I'll stop sharing then.
All right, thank you. And if you have other questions or they pop up, you can always put them in the chat. But you've got some good jobs there, some people are telling you, so fantastic. Let's see, according to my list, the next one is Kristen. Are you ready to go next, Kristen? You're muted still. There you go. Oh, we still can't hear you though. You're unmuted, but I'm not hearing you. We can come back to you too, so just let us know what you would like.
I was muted as well. So that happens to me. When it happens, I leave and then come back and then it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Faina points out how nice it was to include the flag, and I think that is such a nice to bring in, you know, people's home countries, and the flag's such an interesting thing. And I love the different sizes that people had, or where there was a photograph or just the image. Kristen, should we come back to you? You might need to leave and come back. Liz Elena was saying that she had that issue earlier too. All right, so we'll move on. Faina, I think you're here. Yes, Faina's here.
Hi.
Are you ready to present for us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, beautifully.
Because it's dark. Okay. All right. So I'm teaching also for Queens Public Library, and it's funny to see students who I had like few years before in Marika's class. So now the word is intertwined inside the city, you know. Okay, so my topic is Google tools for job topic. Last semester I was teaching on WIOA grant, and the main purpose for students to get a job, to have a job from part-time to full-time, and continue improving the English skills. So I decided to spread that topic for 2 weeks. So it's 2 classes a week, let's say 2 intermediate and high beginners, 3 hours each. Okay, and the first part I'm gonna start sharing this in a second. The first week is primarily for vocabulary, occupations, skills. Okay, so what I'm using, oops, I didn't use Zoom so long time because we are using WebEx, and I don't know if, okay, if it's gonna work. Okay, so the first of all, it's a Google Classroom as a main field. Okay, so we had week 8, which is happened not long time ago. It was week 7 and week 8. If my screen, where I'm talking becomes weird, I'm gonna close my photo. Okay. All right. So this is the first one for the slides. That's part 1. And okay, so I'm gonna try to because I see that it's blinking. Okay, so the main point to say we are hiring and to make sure they understand the difference between hire, fire, and layoff. And because I'm teaching hybrid, it means 12 are sitting in the classroom and let's say about 7 on the screen. I had to digitize everything, okay? And here it's not me talking, it's what they are doing. Because if I'm talking, it's gonna become a lecture. So my point is to, let's say they see, okay, this type of slide, do your work. And it's nothing extraordinary. I just digitize whatever I had in the books or whenever I could find. And it becomes not only individual answering, it's pair work and class talking. That's how I call it. Here are some professions. When it becomes to that point, I put the links for Craigslist and Indeed, and as soon as they do it on their phone, it brings them directly to a website where everyone is practicing to find a job, what they are interested in, and they need to show me on their phone, yeah, that's what I found. That's what I'm gonna try to apply. And I know that maybe one is going to apply because they are shy. And it's not a secret, they get their jobs from their family members or friends, or somebody told somebody else, okay? And that's how, or how we did it when we came. So I included also some pictures from Best Plus. And from here is a dialogue. Here, okay, tell me about this picture, which included professions. That's match and outdoor, indoor uniform. So that's the first week, okay. Second week is devoted to, I'm sorry, okay. I'm clicking too fast, okay. To job interview, okay. The slides themselves, okay. Yeah, too nervous to present. Okay, so job interview, it's for second week. How do we apply? What skills do you need? Would you rather? Something, for example, that's question directly from Best Plus. Job interview makes me nervous. What about you? And what did you do before, now, or future? So the presentations via Google Slides are something like Marika explained, because here it goes through the assignment from Google Classroom like this, okay? They have, so that's their people, right? So it's like 26 together. Not everyone is doing that, but same idea. First, so my job, past, present, future. So this is intermediate slides, people from intermediate. Okay, so this is my example. This is the instructions. And what was important, if they cannot do it by themselves, I put it, if you have difficulties to insert or you're writing a picture, please email it to me. Yes, not everyone has a laptop or desktop computer. So how I avoided, so people who couldn't do it, okay, now this is your laptop in the classroom. So they were doing this on a classroom time. And I already designated the slide by alphabetical order, their names, okay? And it's pretty, it's great, especially when they were able to include their own, upload their own picture, like you see Clelia or Gilberta, or Francois. So she couldn't do it, okay? And here Nadia. And when they are in the classrooms, they were presenting and people are asking questions. Let's say Aresta, she was a cardiologist, so people were so interested about that. And I said, if you fall in love, you can call, you have a heart ache, okay, you call Aresta. And this one from beginners, same idea. So here you can find just a few sentences, not a lot, but they were also very, they were great, okay? So what else what other tools are used I use Padlet. Okay, you can see here the writing and the picture. I used Doc. Okay, so here for the Google Doc, it's gonna be this way. What happened when we use these two questions on Best Plus? What question you can ask for human resources or potential employer? Most of the time they don't get it, what they want to say. Okay, so that's why this assignment, write 5 questions what you think you will be asked, and 5 what questions you can ask your future employer. And because I was attending last time a workshop on Google Keep, that's what I created a few days ago. So everything what I used for that job topic, like Yale Civics, YouTube, Quizlet, live worksheets, and even Craigslist and Indeed, I put it in. That's my first Keep. And I think that's what I'm going to be doing in summertime. It's not going to be for personal reason, it's going to be for business reason. And what I found also for Sheets, I had something like surveys here. Okay, a link doesn't work, by the way. But and for quiz short answer, it's a quiz where they put the answer and everyone answers. Every form is judged individually by me. Okay, if I see if it's sufficient, and in class, if they have a question, okay, or Faina was too judgmental, okay, I can open, and so some people disappear, as you see, but it's still the way to assess people work. Okay, that's it. Maybe I exceeded my time. Okay, that's it.
That was very fancy.
Thank you.
Does anybody have questions for Faina?
Marina, that was a lot of, I loved it because it was a lot of tools working simultaneously. Wow, like forms, docs, Padlet. So it was all together for a purpose. And I like.
I can tell you what is a challenge. With hybrid, there is actually no way to do reading. Okay, for example, this is a great story. Okay, the year I was unemployed, which is very good for low beginners. And so, or for example, this Judy's work, right, like a dice game, because if you type it in one slide, it's too small. And so with the year I was in, when I was unemployed, I can show quickly. 1 second, I'm gonna show you how I avoided that problem. So I typed, what can I do? That's my picture, and let's read it. Okay, slide by slide, vocabulary with the red. But if you find better solution for that, I would like to know.
So that's great. So I'm taking notes. So ways to include reading in hybrid classes.
If I want students to read, and I guess it's not for how to say, because we are using Ventures simultaneously and Burlington and whatever, all this like combined, it's not really urgent, but if we need to do reading, it's a challenge.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
One thing might be to put it in a Google Doc, and maybe there's a way to number the lines, so that way you can direct people to certain maybe lines that you want to have them discuss, or so I mean, that way they could have it in front of them on their device and reading it. I don't know if that would work, or you would need to have them all looking at it at the same time.
Yeah.
Do you mean, so you want them to look at the same passage and then comment, or be like read it aloud, or what? What do you mean?
In old times, we call it in-class reading.
Mhm.
So that was my my aim, because I do know when I post slides for any other topic, let's say Memorial Day or whatever, they will hardly read it. Okay, they will do your quiz, they'll do your slide. To read my slides, maybe a few. Okay, and I understand that perfectly, especially the story. Only like somebody who is very, very dedicated, they will do it. But that's a digital world, you know.
Faina, how about sending it also in a WhatsApp group? I find sometimes that if the reading is in a group WhatsApp,
Mhm.
you know, and you say, okay, you have to read this, or in class or for homework, and then we discuss it, because it's so immediate in a WhatsApp group, maybe? I don't know.
I had one more question too, Marika. So do the people who are meeting in person, do they actually read? Do they do the homework more, you find, than the ones who are off, at home? Or is it a combination of nobody reads, like half, they hardly do the reading?
They had to do their homework, right? And I do that quizzes that if you don't read, you're gonna get wrong answer.
Okay.
That's the only way for me, and I have to do it every week, because it's like counted in lamps or whatever, as a distance learning, whatever they call it. With the WhatsApp group, Marika, I know there are so many students now. I was teaching 5 days for so many different venues, like citizenship, survival, or whatever. My phone is for me and for my family and for my boss. No more. They don't know my phone number. Okay, maybe I'm too private.
You can make an online WhatsApp, but we'll have to, I don't know if you have to associate it, because I think you can associate it with another phone number, but let's work on that as a thing for next time, to have a WhatsApp.
Please do that. Yes,
Yeah.
and thank you.
Yes,
my-
that would be.
My supervisors keep telling me the same thing that she just said, like, stop using your number.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm still sort of working in my mind from the COVID era, where, I just did what I had to do so we could connect, and we've been connected ever since. So I have that as one of my things in the
Yeah.
wheelhouse.
Yeah.
But it's still one of the easiest. They seem to respond
Yeah.
faster to that than my Padlet, my Google Classroom, my Google Chat. I'm like, I have 55 of these things. I'm putting it in 5 places, but the people
WhatsApp
that
is
see it
quicker.
in WhatsApp seem to respond faster than a text message even.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I mean,
No,
Yeah.
what can you do?
And I saw a question from Vicky. So, Faina, all the stuff you showed us is connected into your Google Classroom, so students can get to it from Google Classroom?
Yes, that's correct. Okay.
fantastic. Any other questions for Faina? And if they come to you, just put them in the chat. Otherwise, we're gonna try Kristen again. Yay.
All right, thank you. Yes, that worked to leave and come back.
Turning it
All
off.
right.
It always works.
Yes, yeah. So let me go here. I'll just open this up and get rid of this thing. Okay, so I teach level 5 at Lehman. We do a lot of reading and discussion. I usually use a book. One semester it was Who is Sacagawea? So I try to incorporate some to give them background knowledge about the United States. So anyway, in this one about Sacagawea, before we even got to the book, so this is using Padlet. So this is from the National Geographic, and it's basically a map that shows where the different Indian populations were. And so, you know, we might talk about, because we did some reading using ReadWorks about different Indian tribes. We started actually talking about explorers who came in, and so the tribes that they found in the Florida area in the Southwest. Let's see. So after we discussed this in terms of our readings, we had read several stories from ReadWorks, texts from ReadWorks about different Indian tribes and what kinds of materials they use. They're very different. So now I've kind of forgotten with some of them, but the idea here was to think back over our readings. Well, totem poles, those aren't something that we read about with the Southeast or in the Northeast. Those were things we had read about in the West. Okay, so in this, they basically could move around. Seal skin, you're not going to find that in New York. And so again, that might be something that in the Northeast they would have used. With clay ovens, that's something you more associate with the Southwest. I'm trying to remember. With teepees, that's something you see more in maybe the Midwest going into the West. So just some of the different resources and ways of life that they had. I got a little more sophisticated in this past semester. In this semester, we were talking about the book, Who is Sojourner Truth. So here, for an activity, they were looking at, this is the map of the United States right about the time that the Civil War started. So, what do you think is the difference? I mean, we'd been talking about the Civil War, but what do you think maybe these colors represent, or what's different about this brown area than from the green area? And what's this with these two that are gray at the at the bottom, so that let's see here, so this kind of thing here, or what do they know about Alaska? What do they know about Hawaii? Okay, then in the next version, so it has some reveal about what, this map is about 1860, in February 1861. Here we can kind of confirm what our guesses were. We're seeing here what the colors correspond to. Here's some detail about the different parts of the map. And then I had a handout that went with this, which I'm not sure I can get to quickly. But so part of this then is to, let's see if I can get this to, yeah. So a passage in the book is talking about Sojourner Truth collecting signatures. She actually spoke to Congress. When you think that's quite an achievement, and something very important. And she was talking to them about after the Civil War, giving former enslaved people the basic thing of like 40 acres and a mule, and so she and her other people she worked with, they went into these states. So in the book, it lists what the states are, but a lot of our students don't really have a strong idea of where these states are. So this was an activity. I had broken people. I think I had 8 students, so I had like 2 in pairs working. So so the idea is that so these were listed alphabetically. So the idea is you find this is Connecticut, so you come over here and you basically match it up with what looks like it might be Connecticut. So and then Virginia is a different color. Why do you think that is? Because that was not a Confederate state, but yet that's one of the states she went to. Well, why do you think she went to Virginia? At this time, she was living in Washington, D.C. Let's see. So anyway, you can, let's see. Oh, that's weird. Huh. Because, well, anyway, I thought I had the students work from this, but anyway, all these tags end up over, here, they're all clustered together, but, the point is that they identify which states that she went to. She actually had a home at this point in Michigan. So one of the questions on the discussion form that they had was, let me see if I can find this. Oh yeah, this is actually the activity. So why didn't she go? So here are some of the questions then. What did you notice about the states that she visited? List 2 or 3 things. Why do you think she didn't visit Michigan, where her home was? So none of these are answered in the book. It's them thinking and coming up with reasons that why do you think that she visited Virginia? Which doesn't seem like a logical choice, but and why do you think that she didn't go to states like North Carolina, South Carolina, or Georgia? So it just in a way to try to make it as interactive as possible. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So any questions or?
So that was beautiful use of Jamboard.
Beautifully done, nicely laid out too.
Thank you.
And you would give them edit access so they could go in and move those Post-its around. With
Right.
The maps
Right.
or a background or something, so they
Mhm.
could just delete them or, yeah.
Mhm.
And very
Mhm.
interactive, yes.
Mhm.
And are you, Kristen, these students were people you were meeting with on Zoom, or you did this in person?
We were meeting in Zoom. So we actually met on campus one day and on Zoom, but this was a Zoom
A Zoom
activity.
Beautiful.
Yes, so they were in breakout rooms working on their, I had assigned each pair a version of the Jam,
Right.
a copy of that page. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
And they did this on their phones or did they have laptops?
all of these students had a laptop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Mhm.
And what level was the class, Lucas? at?
It was level 5 in the at least with CUNY, we have five levels of ESOL. Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah,
And
Robert, did you have a question or?
I wanted to ask, did you have to do any prep work with the map of the United States, or was that something that they were just able to connect from the readings?
I'm
Like
sorry, what do you mean about?
the map of the United States. Did they
Uh-huh.
did you have to build up a little bit how the different territories and what they were all about, or did they just kind of able to get that from the readings? Like you didn't really have to prep them that much.
No, we talked about it. And it was a way to really introduce that at this time, we weren't 50 states. Some of the parts of the country were still just territories. And so it was a way of discussing, the way of getting them to notice what's different about these, there again, what's different about these brown areas than the what do you what's different about, how does this look different than maybe the map that of the United States? In retrospect, it might have been a good idea just to start with a regular map of the United States and then go from that back to this. Go from that to this, which is an earlier period of time. But I often with my students, as we're talking about different historic characters, talk about what the country looked at that time. So many students are so surprised. They just think that it's been this way from the beginning, with 50 states. And the fact that, originally there were, only 13 colonies or 13 states and that. So thank you for the question and the suggestion.
And it seemed to me like you were using sort of that notice and wonder where you weren't necessarily lecturing, this is what this means. You were giving them an opportunity to think about it. And I like that a lot with maps. So that's great.
Thank you.
Let's see, I think, who's next? And again, if you have any questions for Kristen, feel free to ask them now or put them in the chat. Robert, you're next.
Good afternoon. Liz Elena is going to have to run the presentation which I made because the internet connection here is very unstable. I can't even put my camera on. But just to give a little background of it, it's I made this when I was working up in East New York, and it was for Black History Month. And I wanted to I kept on looking for a type of presentation to show my students, and I never really found one which was really suited me. They sometimes seemed a little convoluted, sometimes they were too kiddish, and sometimes they were too long. So I wrote one out using Google Slides and using Google Animations. So it could be a presentation which they could see, and then it could be nice and short. And specifically, I wanted to just introduce one thing, and then get them to, after this, go and pick out their own people who they wanted to investigate for Black History Month, and to to pick one person and pick out one achievement of theirs, and just to keep it very focused. So that was basically the idea behind this. So Liz Elena is going to have to run the presentation for me.
All right, got it. So I'm gonna run the presentation. It's autoplay, so we're gonna see it, and then I guess we open for questions. I'll try my best. I think I have to share sound too. Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah,
All right. All right. I think I click on the sound. I'm gonna start the slideshow. Autoplay every second. Here we go.
It all began in 1842. While studying the 1840 census, a Dr. Edward Jarvis determined that free blacks lived shorter lives than those enslaved and were more likely to go insane. It led him to claim that slaves lived better lives than free blacks. He quickly reversed himself after determining that the census was riddled with errors and was racially biased, even by 19th century standards. He spent years trying to convince others of his mistake. One person solidly unmoved by this was John C. Calhoun. Calhoun was one of the most powerful politicians in antebellum America, and he had a problem. Due to immigration and industrialization, the North was getting stronger every year, and so was its opposition to slavery. To deflect it, he had a two-part plan. First, convince the North that slaves were happy, or at least content. Given the distances involved and the lack of personal interaction, it wasn't hard to get many not to care. Second, use census data to make slavery seem like a positive good to slaves by giving them longer, healthier lives. Interpreting large data sets of census data was still in its infancy at the time, so for most it was confusing to understand and just easier to ignore. That was until James McCune Smith came along. Trained in the new field of medical statistics at Glasgow University, he was able to clearly prove Calhoun wrong. And here's how he did it. The 1840 census did accurately show that mortality rates among blacks in New York were higher than slaves. If these mortality rates measured like variables, apples to apples, then Calhoun would indeed be right. But Smith realized the rates were not corrected for age. Different age groups could be expected to have different mortality rates. It was measuring apples to oranges, so it was invalid to draw conclusions from it, even though statisticians have long known Smith to be correct. The 1840 census was never amended, and Smith was mostly forgotten to history. Fortunately, this is changing, and more are becoming aware of his achievements. Not only did he help establish the field of statistics, but he was also the first African-American university-trained doctor. He was the first African-American to publish an article in a scientific journal. He was the head doctor at the Colored Orphan Asylum for 20 years. He opened the first African-American-owned pharmacy in the United States. He was the first African-American elected to the American Geographical Society. Frederick Douglass called him the single most important influence on his life. He was accepted into the New York Academy of Medicine 153 years after his death. He was honored by the University of Glasgow with the opening of the James McCune Smith Learning Hub. If you want to learn more about James McCune Smith, I can't refer you to a biography because none have been written about him. Maybe you could change that.
All right, I'm gonna stop sharing this fabulous movie. Absolutely.
That was great.
Oh my God. So
Phenomenal. Could you give us a
Very
workshop
fabulous.
once on how you do this?
That was nice. Yeah.
so the last slide kind of presented, I think, all the tools he used.
Uh-huh.
Google Slides. I don't know if you want me to share the last slide again, like, animations, layering audio, GIF, GIFs. I never know how to
Nice.
do that one, so correct me on that. Cropping and autoplay. So it's kind of like put together all these tools, all resources from Google Slide to this. So I'm gonna stop the sharing. So animations, layering audio, GIFs, GIF, cropping and autoplay. Right, he used all that for this production. So I'm gonna stop the sharing. And I think, is there any question, Robert? I think he could walk us through that.
Yeah, what level students are you working with here?
That was for, I worked with both ABE, at the time I was working with both ABE and HSE students.
Okay, great.
So the hope was after this, they were, their homework was to go and find someone who they wanted to investigate for Black History Month, and then find out something, which they did, and then any other, other when were they born, that type of stuff.
So were most of your students native speakers, or were they non-native speakers?
They were all native speakers.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I was thinking, yeah, so then I think the pace is appropriate for them. I was thinking it might be a little fast for well, it would be fast maybe for non-native speakers, but for native speakers, that'd be great.
I would have, I did show it to them a second time. So I would tell them, I would show them the first time, just don't take any notes, just watch it. And then the second time, take notes and try to see, well, what did you learn? What did you notice? What was different? What, made you question?
Great. Yeah, it's a lot of work. That's a beautiful production.
So we have a question in the chat. How long did it take you for you to create this? And watch out, Spielberg. Ooh.
Yeah, it probably wasn't really commiserate for the amount of work that was produced. I mean, it was a fair amount of effort, but I enjoyed doing it. It's fun to kind of play around on, Google Slides like that.
Yeah, I mean, just as a learning exercise, it, for your own benefit, it's a wonderful production, let alone the fact that you ended up with something really usable. Yeah.
But it also kind of builds on itself, because a number of things in that I actually took from previous works. So over time, if you keep it organized, you can make it that you develop your own library. So now if I need to put together something really quickly, I can actually just take from old stuff and kind of Frankenstein it together, and it kind of works out pretty well.
Yeah. Music, yeah, Faina. So it's like makes it live. Any other specific question to Robert? Neil shared what Robert had given us before a previous presentation, which he kind of walk us through a little bit on how to add, animations. I think I remember.
I think it was a gamification one, and it definitely had some similar elements where as you move through a slide presentation, things happened, but I actually don't know that we have a copy. I think we have sort of notes around it, but it's time to bring Robert back, I think, as well. So maybe in FY24, we can have a deep animations session.
Yeah, session, layering,
and the music, right, adding audio, yeah, all of those things.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Robert? All right.
Right.
Go ahead. Sorry, I closed down my slides. Here we go. And Lauren, I think you're next.
Oh, okay. So I'm a little nervous, but I feel like I don't want to repeat, a lot. Maybe what I have is what people have shared. So I just want to preface that by saying a couple of things. The biggest problem that I've had since we've returned is the transition of the people who honed their skills at home or got used to using technology, and then the set of people that they might have been my people from before, where they didn't want to come online, and so they don't use technology. So my goal has been a little bit different these past 6 months. It's been to, and I just made some notes, it's been to sort of merge them together where the strong will help the weak, but also that the people who are coming in person, I want them to engage and not be afraid. That's my biggest thing, is engage and not be afraid. So I've been using technology, I've been using Google to sort of ease them in slowly on all the apps that we're used to using, seamlessly, including like Fahina said with Zoom, to just introduce them to the vocabulary in technology, to introduce them to the simple concept of, let's say those who are using WhatsApp on their phone, we're talking about your screen and your participants and this and that. And it's nothing to us because we've been using it, but now they're like, oh, where's power? So this is where I am. It may look like a lot, but it's really just to, ease everyone in, okay? So I'm gonna share my screen, and I promise not to take more than 5 minutes. The advantages that I will say that I had are the strong students that feel comfortable using technology or using slides or something like that. Even if they don't remember everything, they're happy to learn and do it again. That everyone has signed up for Google, so I can use Google Classroom as my place to start, where before we were doing these workshops, maybe I wouldn't have used it as much, but it's my connection to share everything. So I literally went from giving lessons on maybe about 10 sections of Google, which like a typical a typical like cycle would have looked something like this. And I used to work for the library, and I work for the YWCA now. So normally I would start with a couple lessons in technology from the Google, the lessons that Google has available for teachers. I don't know why I'm running a blank, but I would give them Gmail basics, technology basics, and then I would include in there Quizlet. Now I have a set of folders, and I think the biggest thing that I found that has helped me, and I have another window to open, I hope you guys can see it, but it doesn't look like a lot, but each week I would just give them a little bit. And the student, when they were working online, they would do it. So we started out with Gmail basics, learning email, and then we do that vocabulary. We'd use Quizlet to review the vocabulary in class with games, and then for homework, I would give them the like matching or something like that to do on their own independently. And okay, and then as we went further, I would go to week 2. But what I noticed is that like as I got more advanced online, we would work, but in person, when we came in person, they wouldn't do the lessons. So I decided that I would just do the lesson with them as classwork. We'll do it together, and I'll just maybe split it in half. So I don't expect everyone to finish it, but instead we will finish it together. So now you've learned at least 3 basic concepts. So instead of a lesson where a person would produce a slide, we'll just work together and do something like this where I can give you the basics. So for example, this is a lesson on Google Slides where they were able to insert a picture. They were able to insert a link. They were able to change. We started very slowly, putting a word down, your name, like write your name down, 1 slide, then change the color, change the size, something simple like that. So first I would work with them as a group, but then individually, once I knew that people had a device where they could work, now they could do it on their own. So after we did that, then they learned how to insert the link on their slide, just very slowly. But that was great for those who were willing to do technology at home. But again, now that we're back in person, I have all these lessons, and I decided to separate this is my wheelhouse. It's Padlet. So Padlet has been the best thing I have ever learned how to use, because now, since we were home, I was able to separate. First, I would have a page for each class, which I do, but I found that in order for me to work quickly and find everything, it was actually easier to just have a page for each theme. So a page for money, a page for health, a page for whatever, and then I could send it to my individual classes. So what you see here is like my beginner class on Wednesday, my Tuesday and Thursday class. Everyone has access to this, and if they can't find it, these are all mine, but there are only 3 pages for beginners, intermediate. It says, what it is, but if you can't find it, I put it all on our Google Classroom. So it's the weekend. Don't forget to check the schedule, check your announcements in the slideshow, answer the form. And if you need to know your Padlet page, all of them are listed above, as well as the vocabulary that comes with the lesson, which we, may have done already. What I again noticed that some people weren't checking. So I've created these great Padlets, which I thought, I'm feeling fantastic. I have separate Padlets. It's great for me. I can plan a lesson. I'm ready to go, but you're not checking the Padlet. So what do I do with that? So I opened up the Padlet, and I decided to separate it into columns that were literally color-coded so they would know. So when we're in class, we've got class review for homework. Anything blue, it's for you. That's what I always say. If it's blue, it's for you. If you don't look at anything else, it's for you. So there's your homework, there's your class review, and I try to post videos that we've watched in class, maybe the most important ones or what you found. If we're working together, I try to keep 1 document. So whatever skill we're working on these couple of weeks, if it's Google Sheets or Google Slides or Google Docs, yes, it is awesome. Whichever one we're working on, because I realized that, some people really weren't accessing it, whether it was because of their phone or they didn't have access to it. If we're going to work together in class, let's just let's do the project in Google, but we'll just do it together and we'll share one. So something like this, I had to simplify the lessons. Instead of giving the lesson, I'm going to give us a question or something for us to do, but we're going to do it on this one sheet, or we're going to do it on this one Google Doc. So everyone, even if you're working with a partner and you're sharing a screen, or if you're working in class, you're going to see how it's done. So something like this, I asked them to type their name and change the color of the font. What are you doing now? We were doing gerund. So not gerunds, I'm sorry. We were doing the present continuous. So now you have a chance to write a complete sentence. You have a chance to put your name in, and if you're working with a partner, to see how it's done. And while I was doing it, I showed them how to change the color. So now you can see, okay, if you need to go in, you can fill color, you can change your font, you can change the size. So those who are more advanced, as we went throughout the day, they answered the questions, and then they learned how to do another skill, and it just kept going that way. That would be your typical class. And then with each new thing we did, I would just make a new tab at the bottom. So today we're talking about cleaning. Okay, let's answer some questions about cleaning. Everyone put your name in, change the font, change the color. Don't use the same color as somebody else. So it's something really simple, but for the people who are scared, now they know that we're going to do this, or they know how to do it, and they feel like they've accomplished a little something, and we can keep going and change those colors. They can work together and answer the questions. So we're working on phrasal verbs and vocabulary with cleaning, and we just put our answers in the in the columns, and I was able to give them the vocabulary for sheets and practice that before we did, before we answered these questions. But if they couldn't find it again, because it's a shared document, we just go back to our Padlet page and everything is there in that section that says shared document. I realized again that some people weren't checking the homework, they weren't checking the WhatsApp, or maybe you're not checking Google Classroom. So I decided over the last 5 months to make a slideshow. Easy. Look, I'm trying, because it worked well. Everything worked better when we were all together and I could see you. And I have found that using Zoom when I try to do technology is really the best thing for me, even in person, because I can see everyone working and I can write on the screen, and I really miss being able to write on the screen as opposed to writing on a whiteboard. So I use both, but I try to open up Zoom if we're doing something like this where I need to point and show them that. So the slideshow is another way for me to incorporate, just those basic skills and the vocabulary with fonts and color and things like that for the people who aren't doing it. So for example, whatever we did for the week, there might be a link there. It might be a form, something for you to read, but you have to read it. And it covers information that anybody in the class would want. So anything you want to know about, if you want to know about jobs, if you need resources for something, I put it in the slideshow, but you have to open the slideshow. That's the trick. And the slideshow will take you it will show you, how to do some of those things, how to get that information, and maybe sort of spark your interest in how did you do that? So now I can show you, we'll make a slide in class and I can show you, yes, how to do that. And I'll also incorporate some of their pictures. So now I can show them Google Photos, my photos and their photos from class, and show them how to insert a picture there. So I've done one of this. I try to do one every week, but after a while, it gets consuming. So I would just put maybe 1 or 2, but I try to incorporate a little bit of what we've done into the slideshow, including using music. So music is something else that I tend to use, like I use repetition and music a lot, and to help me remember, because that's just how I learn, but they seem to like it as well. So back to Google, I've saved these songs in my Google Drive. I've added them to the slideshow. There's usually a slide that says like words to remember. We studied collocations for the people who can't, if they want to know some of the patterns of collocations, I created a slide there. So on the slide, you'll notice that I have the links to the songs so they can listen to the songs that they heard in class and learn. And please don't laugh. I will admit that when I made the song, I was a little hoarse, which I kind of sound like it now. But the point is, it does work and they get to listen. And this is something that I can use even in class to have them listen and write. Oh, before I start, I should say that my classes are mostly blended. They're only women. I teach beginner, intermediate, and advanced, but more of my classes are high beginners, intermediate to high intermediate. So I try to combine a little bit of everything for everyone, because we have open registration, so I never know who's going to show that day. So I'm just trying to cover. But this is the song that I wrote about work collocations. So I keep it in my Google Drive, and when I want to share it with them, in the Google Classroom, it will have maybe a video, the link to their homework page, the song to remind them what we talked about that day, and perhaps a little Google form or Kahoot, which is the third thing that I like to use, Kahoot, because it's easier. I don't have to check it, but also because I can create, what I've created is folders for everything. So if I have a folder or like a playlist of something, and that makes it easier for me to find everything. So my wheelhouse has been creating folders for Quizlet, where we have phrasal verbs or jobs or collocations, and it's all separated that way. Creating folders or sections on my Padlet pages, so it's just easier for them to see it. But then on my own, when I open up my page, for example, for the year 2023, I just made a page called 2023, and I put all my classes for the week. So if there's a video or something I thought I found and I wanted to have it, a worksheet. I think Faina mentioned like a worksheet, the pages out of Ventures. I've got a page just with that so that I can have it. And oh yes, you get to hear the song, Vicky. I'm sorry. I just didn't want to forget. But I try to keep everything there. So if I forget something while I'm lesson planning, it's here, and I can go to their day and also just send it to them on their homework page. But this is just my planning page for me, so I can see, what I need to do. It looks like a lot, but since we already did it during Zoom, it's already created. I have it, it's already here. So that sort of makes it easier for me. Again, the slideshow for them, but I also do this for myself. Like this, I'll create one slideshow, and that will be like my lesson for the week. And I'll do the same thing. I'll put questions for them. So that's another way that I can share. If I'm not using Padlet, if they're not using their phones or computers, and we're just having a whole class session, I can share my screen and put the questions for us to discuss. The links are there in the slideshow. So that makes it easy for me, because I still want to interact with the class and move around, even though I'm using technology. And at least this way, all I need to do is have my mouse in my hand, and I'll roll it on my, on my hand, on my thigh, and just keep going, so I can still move around and hear them while we engage in conversation, or even my timer. Like these are just things that I incorporated since we were in Zoom, and I just, kept doing it because it made it easier for me. But that is, yes, you will get to hear this song. I'm checking the chat. Yes, it's just easier to organize things this way. I'm not the most organized person, but having it set up by themes, even, as I went along, just made it simpler for me, so that when I'm ready to, like today, I was not sure what I was going to present, because I was like, there are 1,000 things I want to talk about. But I opened up my Google Drive and actually slides, and everything is right there in front of me. So I was like, oh, okay, I can just show you. Here's my Google Slides. There's work we have done that we share, and then that's what I give to them. So it looks like a lot, but my goal is to get back to where we can be interactive and still do more technology, and they're not afraid, which would be something like this, where I would take a picture and incorporate it into the slideshow, and then have them do the same thing. Take a picture of yourself, answer the question. I want to keep it simple. It may seem like a sentence, but it's just the beginning for a lot of people. So those who are more advanced can do more, but if you're not, you've got the grammar, we have our questions, and then as we go along, now create your own slide. So we're talking about the present continuous. What are you doing right now? Take a picture of yourself, and I'll show them the template, how to change the color, how to change the background. We did the font. So it's sort of scaffolding, building your way to this simple slideshow, but you feel proud because you've changed your name, the font, the size. And if you're really advanced, you can animate, and do all those wonderful things. As for the song, okay, these are work collocations. I do a lot of work with work and job and career when we first start. And listening to the song is a great way to review collocations. And then I'll ask them as they listen to write down, what they hear. And if I have Zoom open, then I can obviously write on the screen, which is what I love.
Collocations, connections, they belong together. Collocations, connections, these words belong together. These words belong together. These words are set together. Work, 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 work. Indoor. indoor work, outdoor work, voluntary work, manual work, daily work, day-to-day work, everyday work, routine work, skilled work, unskilled work, 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 work. I love to work too much. Workaholic, 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 workaholic. Indoor work, outdoor work, voluntary work, manual, daily, day-to-day work, everyday work, routine work, skilled work, unskilled work, indoor, outdoor, voluntary work, manual, daily, day-to-day work, everyday, routine, skilled work, unskilled work, workaholic, workaholic, workaholic. I love to work too much. Workaholic, workaholic, workaholic. I love to work too much. Workaholic, collocation, connection, collocation, connection.
So, sorry, thank you so much. But like I said, I like to use repetition. You've got to engage everybody. I have different learners. They will sing the song. They will hear the song. They will remember the song. And then when we get to Google Sheets, if you've never done it before, you've got something to share with your partner that you can put in our column. So you see, we have work collocations, collocations with work. Everyone was able to come up with something. And if they did it before the song or after the song, they heard something that they could share. So we've done phrasal verbs, collocations, and then as you saw, we did job qualifications. You know, we got deeper into careers and jobs, but it was just a good way to kind of remember, you know, the things that people say. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, the best thing that you guys have ever shared with me, and I just want to thank you, you know, Nell, for teaching me how to use Padlet, because I don't know what I was doing before it. I honestly don't know. It has been really fantastic incorporating Google Classroom and having a way to share all that just in a list form. So even for the new students, we have students that join all year long because my program, we don't end. So to be able to have this and just show them, go ahead and join, here are your flashcards. You know, I can find a flashcard for anything in Quizlet. I don't think I've made a set yet, but with tech, I know I said technology, but with technology, work, personality, thank you, Nell. I've just tried to put a little bit of everything there. And again, just divide it for me. So if you have time, if you have a worksheet, just a little commercial, create at least one Padlet page and just throw everything there. It's so easy for you to go back and get it, even if it's the link to your Kahoot, to your vocabulary, or the link to your slideshow. I think the last thing I wanted to share, this is the Ventures page, along with our interactive worksheets. If you guys use that, that's one of my friends, Jeopardy that somebody told me about, just anything that I used to use in person. If I had a chance to scan it prior to, you know, COVID, it's here. So that's my way of sharing with the people who might miss class or who aren't there. Even our conversation, like I have a topic for conversation. And so I'll put some of the venture sheets or questions that I write up or questions from Ngu and just put the link there and we'll do it. And if we don't have computers that day, I'll just share the screen and they can look at it and talk to each other. You know, it's just sort of a mishmash of, it's not hybrid, but I'm trying to invite the hybrid people, you know, in person. And I want you to just ease your way in and feel comfortable as we start using a little bit of everything. So the same thing I did with Google Sheets is what I do with Google Docs and Google Slides, just a simple assignment, you know, in baby steps. They'll see me do it. And then I incorporate everything else there for them. As I said, even them. So when we take a field trip, there they are as well, you know, and it goes to the WhatsApp people. I'll send that to them as well. So that's pretty much it. Sorry, I know I spoke really fast, but I wanted to give you a lot in a nutshell.
That was fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Any questions for Lauren? Lots of applause and thank you for that. That song was amazing. Like, you know, you say you're going to sing a song. It's like, oh my gosh, you're playing a beat, and it was very.
Uh,
wonderful. So
Oh,
thank you
we
for that.
want to thank the makers of YouTube for that. Thank you ever so much, YouTube. And and again, a playlist. I didn't show that, but that is now that we're back in person, YouTube playlist is my best friend. Best friend in theme. So there's a playlist for health, a playlist for health in the body, health in the mind, careers, jobs. It's all separated like that because who has time to go and look for that again? Not me. I don't.
So Lauren, I have to say you're a rock star, not only in your musical abilities, but I think this idea of getting yourself organized, which I think we all have that goal.
Thank you. No,
you seem
thank
to have
you.
done it.
Thank you. Thank
And to
you.
know that the work is hard while you're doing it, but then you have it. And this idea that then
Yeah.
you can reuse it and thinking through. So we may want you to come back and do something for us on how you brainstorm this, or how you consider the different ways to sort your information, because this is a huge skill set that we all need to work on in the use of technology. When we talk about technology, you know, we often get very involved in the actual tools, but the reality, or not the reality, but a big piece of what we're really doing is how we manage information, so that we can get back to it when we want it, so we can share it when we want to, when we can find new stuff when we want to.
It's just really helpful. The playlist, I don't know. As we started doing things with Zoom, even like today, I just started saving, and it was just easy for me because the computer will close, something will happen. It's like, oh my God, what was I looking at? That was a great, and you taught us about history. So I was like, oh, look, we can go back to history, but then it might be too much to find all the things that I just did. So I'll just put save and give it a month or a name, and eventually, thank you, Judy. Eventually, that's what it was. I just wanted to show one last thing. Somebody mentioned WhatsApp. So I've just started using WhatsApp and like the text part. And what I plan to do is, like, we went to the botanical gardens last week. So I decided to take the pictures in Google Photos real quick on my phone and just make it into a something for them to do. So even the people that didn't go, the next day they were able to see the pictures, and now we were able to answer questions or, make a sentence or something about it, and hopefully incorporate it into the Google slideshow of the week. But that's what we're doing. It just seems to be the best. I don't know what it is, but it's the best way for me to reach people right now. They see it and they respond. So that's what I've started doing, But thank you so much. I'm so excited. Thank you.
Thank you. Amazing. Any other questions for Lauren or any of our amazing presenters today? Thank you for being brave and sharing. It's so wonderful. So Vicky has a question about putting text in a picture.
And WhatsApp?
Well, we saw it in your WhatsApp, I think, but Vicky's, yeah. Did you do that using the Google Photo tool, or?
I used Google Photo just for the picture.
Yeah.
Then just to have it in my drive, and I opened up the picture in WhatsApp, and WhatsApp had its own drawing tool on top. But, like with the students, since I knew what the T looked like, I know text. I was like, oh, that must be text. And I tried it. And next thing you know, here we had a little caption, and it was fantastic.
I use WhatsApp for when I was in India and now, and I never knew that. Thank you.
You are welcome. Listen, COVID taught me a lot.
Well, fantastic. And I think given me lots of ideas, I have stuff written down. So we'll definitely be revisiting some of this stuff in the coming year. I am going to put the evaluation again in the chat. Let's see here. And also a reminder of our blog. And the blog is sorted by, like, we've tagged things in the blog. So let me just quickly share the blog. I thought I had it open. Oh, I did want to tell you. So have you all heard of this thing called Be Real? It's like a new social media tool. And it reminded me of Lauren, I think it was Lauren, someone else maybe did a piece. So the idea with Be Real is that you are prompted by your device to take a picture, and it takes a picture of the thing you're looking at and your own reaction.
Oh, that's
And then
exciting.
you share it with other people, and it's interesting. A friend of mine, we were walking down the street. She's like, "Oh, I have to do my Be Real," and so we were looking kind of up at Times Square. So there's a picture of Times Square, and then there's us looking at Times Square. Anyway, something for you to explore. Be Real. and we'll leave it at that. But do check out the blog as a way to think through what we've covered in the past and see if there are topics you'd like us to resurface or new or expanded or particular questions. Anything specific you give us is really helpful. The evaluation has that space in it for us. That's it from me. Lizalena, did you have anything you wanted to say?
No, all good. Thank you for joining us this year. Like I was running yesterday, I ran the unduplicated participants to the Google Cloud for this fiscal year. And yeah, you see all the faces coming back. So that's, thank you. Again, this is my email in the chat. This is the last professional development session funded by DYCD this fiscal year. And if you need anything from me to confirm your participation today, which is equivalent to 1.5 hours of professional development, please email me before Friday, which the fiscal year ends. So we make sure to do that. So, and again, thank you for your participation this year. Have a wonderful summer, a wonderful break, and well, hopefully we get to see each other soon.
Yes, we look forward to that. And yeah, try out some googly stuff, some other tools. You know, this is Google Club, but I think every now and then we bring in some stuff that's not Google. That's fine too. But we look forward to hearing your adventures, because this really is the idea of the club, is that we're all in this together. So take care. Have a great rest of the summer. And we'll check in. We'll send out announcements, but probably late August or September, we'll start up again.
Happy 4th of July.
Yes, you too.
Happy 4th.
I'm gonna stop.